70 degrees. And on the air with me this morning, I have our good friend Joe Fortunato. He is a professor of film studies, and he's got our film school this week. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Jeanne. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So I guess you're going to talk to us today about one of my very favorite movies of all time, Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yes, we're going back to school today, and we're celebrating, actually, if you can believe it or not, the 40th anniversary of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which was released on August 13th, 1982, so its anniversary is coming up here in a few weeks. It was directed by Amy Heckerling, who also went on to direct Clueless. It was written by Cameron Crowe, who did Almost Famous and Jerry Maguire. So it has a very high pedigree of its creative people. It was actually based on Cameron Crowe's memoirs about going back to high school undercover when he was a reporter for Rolling Stone magazine. He ended up turning that article into a book, which was then adapted to the movie screenplay. It really is, kind of unlike a lot of forgotten teen comedies during the 80s, which, there were many. Fast Times really continues to resonate today, even as a great time capsule of the era, from the music, the fashion, the attitudes, all of that kind of stuff. Critic Richard Roper, who is somewhat famous, called it the Citizen Kane of raunchy teen comedies and maybe the best of the genre. Let me see. Film director Amy Heckerling said that she wanted to make a comedy that was a little less structured than conventional was, more like American Graffiti, which is kind of interesting because I always look at American Graffiti as sort of the soulful antecedent of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and then maybe its successor would be Dazed and Confused in the 90s. So every decade you kind of have one of these films that relive high school in a really unique way.
So wasn't this the breakout role for Sean Penn? Wasn't this the first time we saw Sean Penn really do something big?
Absolutely. This is a breakout role for so many. In fact, it's such a great cast. And it actually, I don't know who counts these things exactly, but it has sort of the highest number of teens, which was about 9 of them, who would go on to have successful careers as adult actors. In fact, the film has 3 actors that went on to win Oscars for Best Actor. So that's pretty impressive. Sean Penn, Forrest Whitaker, Nicolas Cage all went on to win Oscars. Cameron Crowe, again, the writer, went on to win Oscars as well. Even sort of background characters like Spicoli's Buds were Eric Stoltz and Anthony Edwards, who would later play, Goose or be on ER. So it really is an amazing cast.
And who could forget Phoebe Cates coming out of the swimming pool?
Yep, no. I wasn't sure we were allowed to talk about it. But,
well, you certainly can, sure.
It's actually, because Fast Times sort of came out with the boom of home video and videotapes. And again, I'm not really sure who measures these statistics, but it was once called the most paused videotape moment in the history of home video.
Whatever happened to Phoebe Cates? Do you know? I mean, was this the only movie she was in?
Well, she went on and she was in Gremlins and she was in a few other things. She certainly never became the big star that a lot of the other cast members did. Speaking of casting, we often talk about casting, and you mentioned that this was Sean Penn's first role. It was Nicolas Cage's first film, even though he had a very, very minor role. But some of the people that auditioned for or were considered for parts is also pretty extensive. Tom Hanks was considered for the role of Brad. He'd later go on to star in Bachelor Party a couple years later. Justine Bateman was offered the role of Linda, but declined. She went on to star in Family Ties. A number of other people: Jodie Foster, Brooke Shields, Ralph Macchio, Matthew Broderick, Michelle Pfeiffer. It's really a who's who of young actors at the time, all of which that would go on to success.
Wow, fantastic! Well, what a great movie to remember. I'll have to rent that this weekend and get back into my whole Spicoli moment. Maybe go out and buy myself a shark's tooth necklace in remembrance
of that. Because kind of in the spirit of like E.T. with Reese's Pieces, Spicoli wore those Vans sneakers, and they weren't very known or popular, but they ended up being super popular and flew off the shelves after that movie. So it actually spurred some commerce as well.
All right. Thank you so much for being on with us today. Joe Fortunato, he is a film study professor. We went back to film school featuring Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I'm Jeanne Destro in for Ray Horner. Now Stephanie with traffic.